हम वो सामान खरीदें जो मेड इन इंडिया हो.
A few months ago, this happened. And then, in this tweet, the US president described the Indian and Russian economies as dead. India retaliated diplomatically. Ministers began urging everyone to embrace Indian apps. And in the chaos, an old 2021 made social app with barely 30,000 lifetime downloads suddenly exploded. Overnight, it shot into the Play Store's top 10, grabbed more than 3.5 lakh daily signups. This Zoho app crossed 10 lakh total downloads and even hit number 1 on the Apple App Store. Then, the sugar rush ended. Now it's just sitting there, barely active, like most Indian social apps that lose steam. There was another app recently, a smaller one, with a big dream. It came on Shark Tank, pitched itself as a social platform for professionals. The founders had energy, the story felt fresh, and even the viewers got curious. But think about it. Have you heard anything about them after the episode? Exactly, neither have we. Because once the TV excitement cooled down, reality hit. They didn't have the money to build a real social network, and investors didn't want to burn cash on something that takes 5 to 7 years to show results. And that brings us to the big question, why we can't build a successful social media. Why do Indian social media apps fail so often? We're amazing at fintech, we've built giant startups in mobility, we've cracked e-commerce, SaaS, logistics, everything. So why not social media? To understand that, we need to break it into two parts: innovation and money. And trust me, both are painful. The innovation problem, let's be honest for a moment. Most Indian social apps are not original. Hike was a WhatsApp copy. Koo was a Twitter copy. Moj and ShareChat tried to be TikTok after the ban. Aratai was WhatsApp 2.0 all over again. And the funny part? We always hype them as the Indian alternative. But let's ask a basic question. Why would anyone switch to a copy when they already use the original? WhatsApp already solved texting. TikTok already solved short videos. X already solved microblogging. Copying the interface doesn't copy the magic. So does it mean copies always fail? Nope, not really. Ola was basically an Uber copy. Swiggy didn't invent online food delivery. PhonePe and Paytm didn't invent UPI wallets. So why did these copies win? Good question. And here's the answer. Those industries heavily depend on operations. Local fleets, local restaurants, local delivery partners, local logistics. If you understand Indian streets better than a global rival, you win. That's why Ola won. That's why Zomato won. That's why Blinkit exploded. Because these businesses need local ground power, not just code. But social media? That's pure technology. No delivery network. No offline advantage. No Indian streets to optimize. If TikTok has a world-class recommendation engine trained on billions of data points, you can't beat that by just being Indian. If Meta has thousands of engineers tuning every little friction in WhatsApp, Aratai can't catch up by adding a flag icon or a few stickers. Even if it does, WhatsApp will take literally few minutes to replicate and ship that feature. Copying works where India has a local edge. Copying fails where the edge is pure technology. Here's the second issue, and it's even more painful. Building social media requires insane money. Facebook raised hundreds of millions before it made a rupee. TikTok burned billions around the world before earning anything. That kind of patient capital simply doesn't exist in India for social apps. Look at Koo. They raised a few $1 million. Big moment. National hype. Even ministers joined. But once the early excitement faded, funding dried up. You can't build a global-scale social network on pocket money. ShareChat and Moj, they burned thousands of crores trying to keep up. The tank is almost empty now. Aratai survived this long only because Zoho quietly funded it from its profitable SaaS business. If Zoho didn't have that money, Aratai would have died even earlier. And here's the sharp truth. India may have a huge population, but we are not a paying digital market. Users don't buy subscriptions, advertisers pay very little, creators don't make enough to stay. So even if an Indian social app gets 50 million users, it still earns almost nothing. This is exactly why so many apps eventually give up. The Hood app. It started as a social platform. Great idea, clean execution, but no money. So they pivoted to matrimony, a category where Indians actually pay. This constant pivoting is not because founders are confused. It's because the economics of Indian social media don't support long-term survival. So how do you build a social app that actually survives? It's not impossible, but the rulebook has to change. First, make something original. Don't be India's WhatsApp. Don't be India's TikTok. Those battles are already lost. Find a new human behavior. audio rooms, interest-based meetups, hobby communities, event discovery, creator-led social circles, anything that isn't just a skin copy of an existing giant. People don't switch apps for nationalism. They switch for something genuinely new. Second, find a way to make money early. The best example is Pocket FM. They didn't wait for Indian users to pay. They went to the US, a market that actually spends. Their revenues there helped them grow everywhere else. They built an original content format, cracked a paying audience, and now they're global. That's the strategy Indian social media needs. Original product plus real revenue plus global market. Not hype, not Indian alternative. Not copying an app with 15 years of head start. The future looks better than you think. The good news: Indian founders today are obsessed with content. More creators, more storytellers, more platforms, more investors. Corporates like Zerodha and others are pouring money into content startups, creator networks, digital studios, basically building the foundation that social platforms grow on. This means the next big Indian social platform won't look like WhatsApp or TikTok. It'll come from the creator economy, from innovative content formats, or from entirely new behaviors emerging in India's youth. We didn't win the WhatsApp era. We didn't win the TikTok era. But the next era? Still open. And with originality, smarter monetization, and patient investors, India might finally build something the world wants to use, not just something that pretends to replace what already exists.